When I was 15 years old, someone hard on their luck came into my family's pawn shop and sold their computer. And instead of putting it on the shelf for sale, my dad brought it home. It ran Windows 95 and had a modem, which means the internet. For the shy and curious, the internet was a godsend. I forget which one of our friends shared the purity test. It was a kind of proto-BuzzFeed quiz, but instead of finding out you were a Hufflepuff, it told you how dirty you were. It was comprehensive. It ran the gamut from, have you ever kissed anyone, to, have you ever been fisted, to, have you ever had your eyeball licked and liked it? It was 1,500 questions that were also suggestions. Ever since then, one of my favorite aspects of a new relationship is the swapping of our sexual wish lists. Things we've done, things we'd like to try, achievements we'd like to unlock. It's thrilling to work up the courage to reveal your fantasies. So one evening, on a car ride home, my girlfriend Jennifer and I were talking about same-sex attraction. I knew I liked boys ever since I was 17. I saw Tomorrow Never Dies and was overwhelmed with the sudden urge to make out with James Bond. Now I was in my mid-30s and being with a man was still just a fantasy. Who would you have a threesome with? She asked. Matt, I guess. He was a mutual friend. He was a bartender and such a unique soul. After he left the Navy, he got a philosophy degree for fun. And he was cute. If it was going to be anyone, it was going to be him. A week later, I got a text from her. Matt's in. I kind of freaked out. In my mind, we were just speaking hypothetically. It's as if we were talking about what kind of dog breed we'd eventually like to own and then suddenly being handed a Labrador puppy. Well, I've never been one to back down from a new experience, especially one that scares me. I have developed a need to prove how much of a grown-up I am in all situations. From harder music to alcohol to petty retail theft to kink. Any suggestion that something is too much for sweet little old me to handle is both an insult and a challenge. I have lost count of the things I've done out of a sense of inadequacy. We set a date for 3 weeks out. I was to host. It was home turf, and having guests over is great motivation to clean your house. The night arrives, and Jen comes over, and we wait, nervously. The doorbell rings, Matt enters, and all my anxiety vanishes. This will be a fun night. We pour some drinks and sit on the couch. No one initiated. We just all kind of melted into each other at once. Jen puts her hands on me, Matt puts his hands on her, and it's off to the races. We're fooling around on the couch, then make our way to the bedroom. Matt and I are touching her. I put my hands on him, feeling his muscles, the hair on his back. I go in for a kiss, and he politely pulls away. The most subtle of no thank yous, and we continued. Suddenly, Jen sits up and taps out. She doesn't feel right. The night is over before it's begun. At least my carpets were vacuumed. After he leaves, Jen confesses to me that nothing's really wrong. It just wasn't going exactly how she wanted. She was really looking forward to Matt and I going to town on each other. I assure her that I would have liked it to continue, that I was just having an amazing time, an interesting time, and she vows we'll try again. About half a year later, Jen and I are in a play about Marilyn Monroe. It was written like a bad soap opera. The director was intolerable. The casting all left something to be desired, and even the performances were cursed. As part of my costume for Arthur Miller, I was given a pair of heavy-rimmed black glasses that were too strong, turning everyone on stage into blurry shapes. In one of the performances, at one of the more dramatic moments, the part of the stage I was standing on broke off and fell into the audience. It was a fiasco. The silver lining was our costume designer, Stacy. She was hilarious and flirty. At least once a rehearsal, we'd all give each other the "what the fuck did we get ourselves into" look. but we believed that people of integrity keep their commitments. Also, I think we all stayed because we just had to know how this would turn out. One evening, we invite Stacy over for dinner and a hangout, commiseration and camaraderie. It's a great night. I make dinner, we are drinking wine and laughing. Just being ridiculous theater kids when we all just get a little more comfortable with each other, sitting closer to each other on the couch, casually touching each other like, oh, I didn't even notice my hand was resting on your thigh. Each of us wanting it to happen, pulling the rubber band slowly, afraid that if we go too fast, it'll snap. When Jen leans over and starts making out with Stacy. They pull me in, and after about 10 minutes of that, we walk off to the bedroom. Clothes are coming off, and everyone is touching everyone else. Stacy lays down on the bed, and I put my head between her legs. Jennifer is touching her breasts. I'm slowly going down on her for a few minutes when Stacy starts to jerk, and I think, well, that's a fast orgasm. And then after a few seconds, I think, well, that's a long orgasm. And after a few seconds more, I think, something is seriously wrong. Her eyes have rolled back into her head. Her limbs were twitching. This woman we're both trying to fuck is having a seizure. Jen meets my gaze with the what the fuck do we do kind of look. I've only seen seizures on TV, and my mind takes an inventory of Jen's kitchen, trying to remember if she owns a wooden spoon. We turn our attention back to Stacy, and just as I'm about to run naked to the kitchen to rifle through Jen's cookware, Stacy stops, sits up, and sees the expression on both of our faces and sighs. I had a seizure, didn't I? We nod. I knew I shouldn't have had that wine. Shortly after that, I tried to break up with Jen. Sexual mishaps were the least of our problems. I had jumped from one long-term relationship to the next, and I was craving solitude. I say tried because I'm a recovering people pleaser. Halfway through the breakup conversation, the anger and the need to be alone would subside, and what was left in that vacuum was another acquiescence. I relented. Okay, let's try one more time. One of my superpowers is finding a silver lining in any situation. I mean, sure, I'm miserable, but Jennifer really seems to like me. That summer was terrible. A slow spiral where I ended up disliking her more and more, but I felt an overwhelming sense of stuckness. Yet I stayed. How long did I need to stick it out until I had earned the right to have my life back? Working up the courage to break up with someone is its own ordeal, and every time I stood up for what I wanted and then backed down, it got harder and harder to do the next time. One July day, as we're having dinner, Jen mentions she's going to try for another threesome. I am no longer excited. I am, however, always curious. I marvel at the way she hops on Craigslist, puts an ad out there, and finds someone pretty quickly. I know it's a delicate business and that her being a woman seeking another woman is far easier than the guy in the relationship helming this thing. It's an activity that carries with it some risk, and my acute shyness would make its way into every interaction. Would you like to come over and get fucked by me and my girlfriend? No worries if not. So witnessing someone execute this thing in real time was at once anxiety-inducing and fascinating. It prodded all my insecurities, but it was also like watching one of those magic acts where they explain how they make their assistant disappear. She finds someone, a plucky little woman named Fallon. What do you think about her? She's cute, she seems fun. They meet for drinks, a sort of pre-threesome interview. They discuss expectations for the evening, what's preferred, what's off limits, setting expectations about safety. It's like taking the purity test all over again, but it's a list of preferences in lieu of confession. I always find the subtle art of building trust in high-risk situations fascinating. Fun is serious business. The night finally arrives. Instead of excitement, my head is full of concern. The other experiences had been with friends, people I still greet to this day warmly whenever our paths cross. But this is a stranger, and the stakes are higher. Will I be able to please everyone? Will this person like me? Will I do a good job? Will she like the way I smell? The first time I am meeting this person is also the first time I am to have sex with her. She arrives. She's a short woman, blonde, muscular, with a devious smile. She's got a little unicorn kit, a little go bag with extra clothes, condoms, lube, probably snacks too. After introductions, we get started and my consciousness splits. There's me doing the act, but also the me steering the interaction and observing. The whole thing took about an hour, and it wasn't anything that you couldn't see on the internet every day of the week. Jen gets off, Fallon gets off, I get off, it's over, and she leaves. I have now had my first threesome. No tap-outs, no seizures. The thing I remember most clearly about the whole night was Fallon pulling out a little Ziploc bag full of baby wipes and walking off to the bathroom to clean herself up. I remember being impressed at the preparation and comparing it to how I'd likely be in that situation. Aside from condoms and mints, I don't know what else I would have brought. Sunglasses to wear while I'm having sex? What you should like versus what you do like is a strange dance. While technically I could finally fill in that little bubble on the purity test, making myself that much dirtier, it wasn't the thrill I had hoped for. It was fine. I've yet to have a good group sex experience, but now I actually know what I like and what I want. And it's not just some interesting sex trick or idealized fantasy scenario. I just want trust. You won't find that you won't find that on a purity test, but I'm done taking those anyway.
Give it up for Paul Costen.